Our next session dives into the industry lens with the topic Fueling Innovation, Driving Results, Measuring Impact, an Enterprise Lens. In this segment, we bring in experts from diverse sectors to discuss the impact of AI. More importantly, how are they measuring the ROI and what are some challenges along the journey? This session is chaired by Ankur Puri, partner McKinsey. In the course of his decade-long tenure with the firm, Ankur has advised clients on the application of advanced analytics to basic materials and commodity markets, power generation, manufacturing, and service operations across sectors. He is joined by Naren Peri, AVP Business Analytics and Site Leader, Global Analytics and Research Center, MetLife. In his tenure, Naren has set up and scaled data and analytics capability for Fortune 500 companies across multiple industries: CPG, e-commerce, financial services, healthcare, insurance, retail, and technology. Along with Naren, we have Serge De Vos, Managing Director, Interaxis and AB InBev Venture. Serge currently leads the setup of a new venture at AB InBev. I'd like to request Ankur to take the baton and dive right into the conversation.
Thank you, Justin. Hello, everyone. We are delighted to be here. I am Ankur. I have with me Serge and Naren, and we're going to talk today about the field of AI applied to business. We're going to talk about some of the innovations, not just in technology, but also how the tech is being used, and perhaps something on business models as well today. We're going to talk about impact we are seeing, and we're going to talk about measuring that impact, which we might conclude is the hardest of all the problems. So with that, we're going to dive right in. I am going to be the moderator. I'm going to request Serge and Naren to field a few questions that we've received and come up with on the basis of the feedback so far. So let's get started. I'm going to request Naren to go first. Naren, brief introduction about yourself and the work you all are doing. And perhaps you can talk a little bit about how AI is getting used in the sector overall and kind of impact you're seeing from the use of AI.
Thanks, Ankur. Greetings, everyone, and hello, Serge. I lead the Global Analytics and Research Center for MetLife, Hyderabad. The center is established to scale data and analytics capabilities for MetLife. So coming to this particular topic, I believe in this quote, you cannot improve what you don't measure. Measuring the results is one of the keys to building sustainable and scalable AI. Meeting expectations or above expectations results gives us the motivation and excitement to consume more AI, improving analytics maturity in the business function of the organization. If the results do not meet expectations, the opportunity to pause, learn, and intervene. Typically, every business process, the health is assessed by few KPIs, right? It's a number of policies sold, the annual net premium collected, or the loan or the application processing time, mean call handling time for call center ops, or turnaround time for claims processing, or experience and engagement metrics. The breadth of adoption across lines of businesses, functions, and markets, in my experience in few organizations, has been pretty good, while the sophistication on the depth of measurement varies based on the collective experience or the consciousness of the business, IT, and tech teams, sometimes connected to the data and analytics maturity of the function. Specifically, if we talk about some impact in the insurance sector, where I have some experience, right, the motivation for embedding AI sometimes is so strong that alignment on measurement to the nth level detail is not critical to gain, for example, competitive advantage, or if the use case is so essential to the business. For example, if we take machine vision or NLP powered insights for auto claims processing or fraud detection to improve the service rep productivity. So in some cases, the AI consistently enables more consistency than human specialists could achieve. For example, detecting fraudulent activity in clinical evidence. Sometimes X-rays are used, fabricated X-rays are used by claimants as an evidence to process the claim. A machine can more effectively and efficiently identify if it is a fraud and consistently than a human specialist could do. So in these cases, I think having AI, adopting AI is very essential. Likewise, if I look at the underwriting function, sometimes instant decision making on the application processing for additional insurance coverage, real-time accessing the prescription drug data and providing the instant decision in about 2-3 seconds, not only enhances the human underwriter, but helps us achieve a competitive advantage which otherwise isn't possible. So that is how we are seeing the adoption across few functions.
Thank you, Naren. The point about new applications that weren't possible with humans and doing things instantaneously certainly have been spearheads across sectors actually in creating a seat on the table for this technology. So thanks for sharing that. Serge, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Ankur. So I'm Serge. I was leading in India our global capability center for the last 4.5 years. And during that time, we've also really injected AI into the capability center, right? In fact, we started with AI about 6 years ago in 2016. In fact, we set up our AI center of expertise in Bangalore. At the time, we started with a very small team, just handful of people starting to work on some commercial problems at the time. How do we improve revenue, market share, etc. And that team now has grown to a team of more than 450 AI experts. And here I'm talking real about advanced analytics, machine learning experts based out of Bangalore. But if you add visualization experts, if you add data engineering, so the full DNA, data and analytics practice, we have more than 1,000 people today around the world, with the biggest hub being in Bangalore and then smaller hubs in the different zones. So that journey has been quite, has been a big journey over those 6 years, and we have adopted AI in every single business function by now. So we started with commercial, we started with marketing, the typical CPG problems in terms of price positioning, promotion effectiveness, shelf space optimization, etc. Typical ones where everybody would start. But then moved into logistics, moved into supply chain, more complex problems in terms of guaranteeing quality of the beer, for example. But then also in 2018, we moved into finance. How do we change the finance process and the finance back office, even through AI, which was quite new at the time. We looked for some support externally. We developed several solutions as well in finance. And I think finance is a very interesting area because it hasn't been typically transformed that much yet, for sure not through AI. So it was an interesting journey where we had to learn how to talk to, how to get the AI people and the finance people to talk to each other. That took quite a while. But then if you see the impact that you can generate is massive. It's in the tens of millions of dollars, because when you work in finance, you're working with costs. You operate all the data of the company, revenue, costs, accruals, everything. So if you're able to make an impact there, it immediately translates into dollars, right? So that's a bit of a history of where we are as AB InBev. By the way, I forgot to mention, we're AB InBev, biggest and best beer company in the world, obviously. So yeah, that's a bit about our journey in terms of AI. Thank you,
Serge. I'm glad that finally we're also applying this to quality of beer. At least the nerd folks will be very happy to hear that. Later, you must talk a little bit about the hub and spoke model as well. I think it's an important challenge, a lot of organizations. So thank you for sharing that. We'll move a little further from here, and as we sort of think about the kind of things you all are doing right now, the applications Naren mentioned, the scale Serge you are talking about, and how you've gone to every part of the organization. I am reminded of the question that people in the early stages, organizations in the early stages ask. We don't have the data. We don't have all the data we need to create this magic, right? And the data we have is terrible. Right? I think this is the only metric where everybody believes that they are the worst on a scale, any scale. I'd love to hear from you on the journey you've been on from a data perspective. Was it really necessary to get, what was a threshold beyond which you could say, you know what, now we can have impact? And any reflections for others listening to the discussion today?
Maybe if I take that question, Ankur, I think it's interesting to see the availability, the accessibility of the data, the completeness. There is no limit to that particular feeling that I need quality data. I think that is a utopian concept, right? Ideal data, complete data, perfect data. Despite of that, in spite of that, I think we have been making progress over the last few decades, and we still need to make that progress. Obviously, the quality of the data, availability of the data varies across industries, across sectors, even within the same organization. It varies across business functions. Sometimes we will have quality data available in some front-facing functions, typically the sales and marketing areas, possibly. And in some organizations where if the core function is on the supply chain or operations, you may see quality data available. So I think the one answer is we need to make that particular progress in spite of the quality of the data that is available. But having said that, my view is some level we need to educate the business and IT stakeholders, like basic maybe 101 course on adoption of AI, how AI from labs to life can bring life to that particular function, right? So the way we can think in is not every time every AI solution means it's a very sophisticated algorithm or a deep learning neural network is embedded in it, making sense of the information, the diagnosis or the diagnostic analytics, then maybe inquisitive analytics, then we can get into predictive and advanced analytics and derive insights, but insights can also be derived from basic reports, and then interventions can be made. So that is how I look at it when we adopt the AI journey and how we need to handhold and also partner with those business functions where we have seen this success and lean on them as the champions in the organization, right? For those functions where they may be new to the data analytics, leveraging data and analytics, and create those success stories in the organization on how data-driven decision-making in certain functions achieved good results and why it is maybe essential or important for other parts of the organization to embrace it. And it is okay for us to take that journey. And in that journey, the other point is the ROI. When we look at it, we don't need to be perfect it, right? In a simple bare bones, if I look at the ROI, the returns and the investments, sometimes the returns are non-linear. Measuring the returns is not sometimes easy because it's not just AI solution alone that we will deploy. For example, if I pick up a recommender engine on an app, so the user engagement or user retention, if we measure those metrics, can I just relate to the intelligence I embedded in the app? Or there may be other features that went on to the app, maybe a voice search or UI, UX kind of improvements. So how do I attribute the returns to that particular one feature? On the other side, when we look at the investments or the costs, we may also need to look at the portfolio approach instead of looking at a point solution approach, because sometimes these data insights or even the infrastructure and the platform investments are common across a pool of problems. So whether we pick up a sales productivity problem, agent performance prediction, agent training, agent customer recommendation matching. So all these problems may share underlying common data. Now the investments in the data classification, data lineage, data governance, data management, the ETL pipes, all need to be accounted, should not be double counted when we look at the ROI of these different problems. So that's what my experience and my perspective is.
Thank you, Naren. Serge, you are seeing this problem with a unique perspective across markets. Would love to hear what you're observing.
Yeah, I think we can look at this from two angles. No, one I think is the internal data and then external data. So even on the internal data, as Naren mentioned, in a lot of cases, when I talk to colleagues, when we benchmark, we hear people talking about we haven't started yet with AI or this type of solution because we don't have the data. We don't have the data in a data lake. We have master data issues, etc. Of course, when we started off, we had the same challenge. We all start from that same type of position. But I would say don't wait until all your data is in the data lake and 100% perfect, because you might be waiting for a couple of years, right? So what we did when we started the journey is very simple. Extract the data from the different sources that we needed it. You spent quite some time to organize your data, but just pull the data, put it in a simple, even data lake. I think we started off even with a SharePoint, where we just put the data that we needed for some of the problems that we were solving. The big advantage is you can already deliver value, right? Once you have the data, once you start analyzing 5 years of data, you can already do some recommendations, you can find some value. The only challenge that you have is the productization, right? You cannot, of course, implement that algorithm in your business processes, because then you would need to have all the ETL pipes, etc., all running. But you can already get started, drive value, drive insights, drive recommendations without even having a fully blown data lake. So that's the challenge on the internal data, let's say. And then, of course, us as a beer company, as a CPG, we need a lot of external data, right? And in some markets we have access to that data, sell out of retailers, for example. But in some markets, legally, it's not, that information is not available, right? There are constraints, legal frameworks that we need to operate within. And so some markets, we don't have the same amount of data. So what we do then is partner with external sources and try to find indicative data, right? One great example is COVID. The beer sector was hit massively due to COVID. We had to close. Everybody remembers bars, restaurants, a lot of retail stores even were closed. India, no alcohol for I think 2 months. In the first lockdown, all the beer shops closed. And then the challenge for us was, okay, how do we predict our collections, our overdues? How do we predict which customers potentially could go bankrupt? Which of our customers would have financial issues? But there's no data anymore. So again, there also we started looking at external data, retail index, industry outputs, all other sorts of indicators that could give us some indications of how these markets would ultimately evolve. So I think you need to find other types of data that you could use to make some predictions in certain markets where you don't have that data available, or capture the data, implement some tech that you start capturing data. One great innovation that we launched in India a couple of years ago is in the fridges. Of course, you put cameras, and then the camera will measure the number of times the door has been opened, which beers have been taken from the shelf. It can real life measure whether your shelf is properly filled. Is the fridge that we paid for actually filled with Budweiser, or is it filled with orange juices, or I don't know what else might be put in the fridge? So it gives you live visibility of the market. So some tech can always help as well to capture data if that data is not available through other means.
Thank you, Serge. I'll tell friends to look for that camera next time they go shopping. I will, I think, just have time for the last question to both of you. I will just quickly shoot them. Naren, to you, what has been an important lesson in building consensus in stakeholders within the organization to invest behind AI?
I think couple of lessons maybe, Ankur. One is the measurement is not a one-time activity, right? The results and the impact. There need to be an institutionalized and governed process, a periodic assessment review among the business sponsors and the tech teams, among the tech teams, among themselves, like data and analytics teams or the IT platform teams. That's required to see what's working and what needs intervention, not just from measurement standpoint, but overall solution, the adoption, is it meeting the objectives or not? Because, for example, as Serge was referring to the pandemic situation, right? Pandemic also led to a substantial increase in the volume and the value growth of some type of insurance. Now that is an external shock or external impact, like a black swan event. Can we attribute that increase in the growth to a particular tech solution? Not necessarily. So at least periodically, maybe a semester wise or a quarter wise, based on the context and the business problem, reviewing that impact, is it still applicable? Is there any drift? What is the accuracy levels, fairness? And that should provide for retraining the model or the tech solution. So that is one. The other one which I talked about is the portfolio approach, again, to build the consensus so that the ROI is factoring in all the returns. And sometimes we may not be able to efficiently pinpoint the returns. It is okay because the expectation from this tech solution is multi-fold return. So even if we are off a little bit from efficiency standpoint in measurement, directionally from magnitude standpoint or order of the magnitude, if that is okay, that gives the motivation for business sponsors and the tech teams to invest in that particular solution. So this is what I could think of.
Thank you, Naren. In all my work, our work actually with clients, I think this point about how do you bring in the plan for the investment at the start and then a fair measurement later on to see whether they got the return or not is actually, I think, the next frontier in some way of adoption for people. And I think your points around taking a portfolio approach, because a lot of people started with point solutions and isolated pilots, but taking a portfolio approach is very important. And the other point you made earlier about, it's also evolved that someone's looking at AI, someone's looking at search, someone's looking at digitization, but put together, they actually create a whole new different envelope of value. And how do you bring that together? So thank you. Final question to Serge. What are you excited about? What's around the horizon to amplify scale?
Yeah, what I'm excited about, in fact, is my new job. No? So I mentioned before that I was leading the GCC. Now started a new initiative, which is a bit breaking the barriers with what we've done in the past. So the idea here is to start a new venture and to take our AI capability to the market. No? So because, as I mentioned, this became a huge capability, as large as some of the AI providers that we have here in India. We developed a lot of solutions that we rolled out across AB InBev. No? And AB InBev has 6 zones. Every zone has different route to market, some different systems, different types of competitors and landscape. So it means every time you need to retrain your model, you improve your model, obviously. So we were thinking at a certain point, okay, why not take those solutions as well to the market? Why not help other CPGs or even insurance companies, maybe, we're talking to pharma companies as well. I think a lot of those solutions even are not sector dependent. So that's what we're doing now, is looking at some of those solutions. How do we take them to the market? So I'm talking to several companies to understand where they are in their AI journey, what are their typical problems. And then we see that a lot of the problems that we're trying to solve are all the same. So why always start from scratch and build our own models? Why not see how we can partner, start from the same base? And we believe that a lot of those solutions, we can replicate 80% of that algorithm, of that solution, of course, train it on the customer's data, probably do some feature engineering, and you will have 20% customization for a lot of those solutions. But 80% of the engine, we believe, can be reused. For sure, in some algorithms, for example, in the finance space, and those are the ones that we're first taking to the market. How do I prevent revenue leakage? How do I prevent supplier payments leakage, tax leakage? These are problems that every organization is faced with. So there we believe 80% can be reused, 20% is going to be modified. So that's the new challenge. So I became a salesperson, which is completely out of my comfort zone. It was very funny. The first conversations I had was with colleagues, GCC colleagues, calling them up, and instead of having a benchmark discussion about return to office or hybrid way of working, all of a sudden I was talking to them, hey, which business problems are you trying to solve, and is there a way for me to help you? So a bit uncomfortable, which is great. I'm learning new things, but also making already a big impact. So the first customer that we had, one of the largest food manufacturers, we made a 2x return within 4 months from deploying the algorithm. So let's see where it goes, but we're very hopeful that this is the next frontier to create really a separate venture with AI from AB InBev.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I can see you're on a high with that, and you're doing a great job of convincing people that this is very, very valuable. So best wishes to you, sir. Best wishes to you, Naren. Thank you for joining us and sharing your experiences. Very rich and very pertinent. And thanks to NASSCOM for actually giving this opportunity for this dialogue.
Thank you, Ankur, for chairing that session. And of course, goes without saying, thank you, Naren and Serge, for that wonderful session and panel discussion.